Thank you for joining us today on the International Leadership Podcast. My name is Joe Beauchamp, your host. I'm also the founder of Beauchamp Team Growth Solutions. We provide leadership development strategy, training, coaching, mentoring, consulting on topics such as leadership, communication, personal growth, emotional intelligence, building a culture that is successful. Get all your team developed and growing in the right direction, rowing in the right direction, carrying the burden of your team so that your company can scale the way you want it to. Give us a call or shoot me an email and have your free introductory consultation. Thank you. Welcome back. This is Joe Beauchamp. We are on the International Leadership Podcast. Today we have a very special guest, Michael Brian Lee, who is a founder of Innovativity Institute, as well as an author of a great book, The World Innovators Cup, which I met Michael at an author's event recently. So we're gonna have a great interview today, just going some background on you. We're gonna talk about creative thinking and adaptivity in job roles and changes and things. So really looking forward to having you today, Michael. Looking forward to talking to you. Why don't you just give us a little background about yourself?
Thanks, Joseph. It's really nice to be here with you. I will start by telling you this. I'm sitting in Long Island right now, but I'm usually in South Africa, in Johannesburg. I've been living in Johannesburg for 23 years.
Oh, wow.
Grew up in California. Went to Stanford University, worked in the bartending industry for a year after school,
Yeah.
as you might put it. And then I went to law school for a year and quit that to go to Prague. Spent 7 years in Prague running a literary magazine called Traffica, which became kind of the most famous literary magazine of our generation. And then ended up, after being a TV director in New York for a few years, ended up in South Africa, where I was a television director and producer for about 15 years. And the last few years have been focusing on training companies in creative thinking and innovation mindset. Yeah, just published my first book, which you just showed off for me. So appreciate that. I've
Yeah.
got a few other books that I have drafted and written, but not published yet. But this book here, World Innovators Cup, that you just showed off, is about famous innovators from history portrayed as World Cup soccer stars. So the timing is good, and the book seems to be getting some good attention. People like it, so I'm happy, very happy.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna say it's a very creative thought, and now in the world of AI, it's kind of easier to go from imagination to to images. So you have some soccer players here. Um, you show these world leaders as soccer players. Here's Ernest Rutherford, who's the father of nuclear chemistry, playing soccer there with what looks like an atom soccer ball. So very creative ideas, creative stories in here. I thought it was a lot of fun. I think the concept is great too, that we don't spend a lot of time, people know famous soccer players, but do we really know some of the world shapers that that are responsible for the way that we think and act and live today? The innovators, the thinkers, the brilliant minds. So for you to highlight them really country by country, continent by continent, I think it was a very creative idea. I think it's a great idea. I would recommend this for anyone and everyone, and especially for, I would say, young people. I think this is great for like a supplemental book and for high school students learning about like world history and stuff, to really kind of see different world leaders in a different light.
Yeah, thank you for that. I've found, strangely, I did not expect this, but I found that like 12-year-old children really love it, and boys and girls, not just boys or anything. They really love it, especially if they do like soccer. But even when they don't, they really love they're learning about these people in school, and they're
Yeah.
really passionate about it. Like they're much more passionate than people like you and me about these innovators, So I found unexpectedly it wasn't written for 12-year-olds, but 12-year-olds really like it. They
Yeah.
really do.
Maybe there's an opportunity for other types of interactive stuff with for young people. Get them to be more interested in these great thinkers. you got scientists here, you got world leaders, artists, Freda is on the cover here with Gandhi and looks like Shakespeare. Not really sure who the other person is on there.
Wangari Maathai.
Gary
Yeah,
Matata.
Wangari Maathai. She planted over 1 million trees in Africa and won the Nobel Peace Prize.
Wow. I should know that.
Okay.
I should have read the whole book, but I read parts of it already.
But now you do know that, so that's the good thing about it.
So you've had this varied career over the course of time, different countries, different places, different responsibilities, and now you help people to deal with change.
Yeah, so that's a great way of putting it. I teach creativity and innovation, but also I'm studying what's called creativity and change leadership at the University of Buffalo State, which is where creativity training and education was born. I believe it was the 1950s that it
Who's
started there.
who's taking
Um,
credit for that?
sorry?
Who's taking credit for?
Alex Osborne and Sidney Parnes. Alex Osborne is the O in BBDO, the advertising agency.
Okay,
And he was a big, big deal, obviously, in the New York advertising scene in the 50s, and started a creativity training at Buffalo State.
yeah,
And the rest is history. Creativity was not a studied discipline. 1950, a guy named J.P. Guilford um, gave a speech at the American Psychological Association conference in 1950. It was the first time that creativity was considered something that you would study.
right,
He gave a speech about that. Already by the end of the 50s, Osborne and Parnes had started this educational program in creativity. So a lot happened in the 1950s. Before that, no one thought of creativity as something you would study or learn about, or could even, that you could even learn it, that it was something that you would talk about academically. It was considered ridiculous.
hmm. That's so interesting. Now, I'm thinking children are born naturally creative, aren't they?
Yes, children are born naturally creative. Human beings do two things really well, and one of them is to be creative. The other is to be destructive. Um, but being creative is our birthright. Absolutely, it's how we learn, right? We learn fast. Children learn quickly. They learn like sponges because they are able to create not just the world around them, but they create themselves.
Hmm.
Like you, Joseph Beauchamp, you are a construction of yourself. Like who you
Yes.
became today is a series of choices, both conscious and unconscious, that you've made throughout your life, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, to be creative is to actually be human. That's the same thing.
Right.
Yeah. So children haven't had it beaten out of them, and they're really creative.
Yeah. So I was about to say that we kind of educate creativity out of kids through our educational system. Like every kid in kindergarten learns the same stuff and sits in the same classroom and goes through the same process in the same direction, learning the same, you know, concepts. And I guess over the course of time, we kind of just squeeze the creativity out of our own kids.
Yeah, it's exactly what happens. And there's specific reasons for that that are more complex than just what you said. What you said is a good start, right? We sit in rows facing the front. And the most important thing is there's always one right answer, right?
Right.
The idea that there could be many different possible answers is not generally encouraged in traditional schooling.
Right.
I know there's some school systems that do that, but mostly, you have a test, you get the right answer, you get the wrong answer.
Right.
The idea that you could come up with a creative or a different answer is not encouraged at all.
Right.
The idea that you could ask questions that don't have answers at all and just discuss possible answers is not encouraged in most schools.
Right.
Um, and then the other thing that happens, Joseph, is that there's a thing called divergent thinking and convergent thinking, right? Divergent thinking is what's also known as ideation. It's the idea of coming up with ideas.
Right.
Convergent thinking is like decision making, taking the ideas you have and deciding which ones to work on or use. The problem with our education system for young people is that it also, or a problem besides the others, is that it tries to get you to do the converging and the diverging at the same time,
Hmm.
right? So you're not trying to come up with lots of answers, which is the way that creative problem solving works.
Right.
Again, Buffalo State, but creative problem solving, the idea is to come up with as many possible solutions as possible. 30, 40, 50, ways to use a brick. Um, and it's an exercise that people struggle with because they want to come to the right answer as fast as possible, right? But actually, creativity is maximized when you don't try to come up with the right answer and you try to come up with lots of different answers and generate crazy answers and build on each other. Take an idea you had and build another idea on that idea and keep doing that until you really run out of gas. And only then, when you have a list of 30 or 40 or 50 possible solutions, then you look at converging. But in school systems, especially, but also the workplace, you know, we're encouraged to try to come up with a solution before we even come up with possible ideas.
Right.
And that starts to really mess with creativity as well, because it's taking away the ability to speculate, to play, to be curious, to have fun, to diverge.
Right. Thank you to our sponsor, MTL Telephones. That's mtltelephones.com. You want to give them a call at 631-823-7100. MTL Telephones provides voice over IP telephone services, most likely cheaper than the price that you're paying right now, and more options. For example, I use it for my telephone service, and I can answer my call from any device, my laptop, a tablet, my smartphone, or a phone system from anywhere in the world. I can answer it here, or my assistant can answer it halfway across the world. Voicemail messages get transcribed and sent to me as text messages, as well as I can send and receive text messages from that voice over IP. They also have an AI auto assistant so that 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, your phone can be answered by an AI assistant that you have trained. So once again, you want to give them a call, go visit their website at mtltelephones.com or call their number at 631-823-7100. Pick option 5 for sales. Give Mike a call. So thank you so much, MTL, for being our sponsor for this broadcast. Little break there. We're back. So tell us more about creative thinking and, so we squeeze it out of our kids. Is there a way to get it back?
Yeah, it's a great question because that's really the important thing, right? Is how do we get it back? And the main thing is by unlearning, right? We've learned bad habits, we've learned bad ways of doing things. We've learned, like I said, we've learned to try to come up with the answer before we even speculate on the question for long enough. We need to lose those bad habits. We need to encourage good habits, things like being curious. Curiosity can be defined really well as the desire to keep finding solutions even when other people would stop.
Hmm.
Like other people are satisfied with what the solution is. You're not satisfied. You're curious. Being persistent, being bold, and assertive in what you're doing. These are all character traits of a creative person. So the more you can stoke those character traits, the better. There's other traits that are more like skills, like for example, perspective, the ability to change how you see something, be able to look at it from someone else's point of view. That's a skill you can learn, right?
Right.
Um, uh, Complexity, the ability to hold lots of information in your head at the same time. That's a skill that you can learn. You can actually train yourself to be better at those things, right? And ambiguity, mean being able to see things from two different places at the same time, not just to switch from one to the other, but actually be able to hold the idea that like, both left and right at the exact same time. How can both of those things actually be true? These are
Hmm.
skills we want to cultivate and develop, right?
Yeah.
And
And we're definitely losing them. If we haven't already lost them, they're it seems like less and less every day. People are very locked and fixed in their way of thinking. They don't see that there could be other perspectives.
yeah,
I think it's reinforced by social media. Um, your feed on your social media is different than my feed on my social media.
yeah.
Mine reinforces my way of believing, and yours reinforces your way of believing. And it's crazy that we can be looking at the same, we can both be scrolling through the same social media platform and getting two completely different feeds and seeing the world in two completely different ways and believing that everyone else is seeing it our way.
Well, that's why like the way I define creativity is a little different than Wikipedia or something, right? Wikipedia, for example, a standard definition of creativity is that it's something that is a product, making a product that is useful, new, and unusual or original, right? So none of those things are true. It doesn't have to be original. Most creative work isn't original. It's usually derived from some, well, it's always derived from something else, right? There's
Right.
nothing completely new. Everything is an improvement on what came before, even if it's a radical breakthrough, disruption. It's still driven by something that came before.
Right.
And sorry, the definition is that it has to be new, obviously doesn't really apply. And useful, maybe the closest to something, but is it not creative if it's not useful? I mean, that's also arguable, right? That you might want to
Right.
create something just for the fun of it. Your
Right.
5-year-old child, you have children, right?
Yeah. My children are all adults, but yeah. But I
But
grew
they
through
were
all those
five at
stages
one,
of,
but they were five at one point,
they were
right?
all five at one point. Yeah.
Right. And when they were
A whole
five,
year.
they didn't do useful things with their creativity, right?
Yeah.
They were only useful
Uh,
because you put them on the fridge and you were proud of it and stuff, but it wasn't like
yeah.
useful per se. It was just fun, right?
It's fun. Yeah.
So none of those definitions of creativity really make sense to me 100%. But the one definition that I believe for creativity that makes the most sense is that creativity is thinking differently from yourself,
Hmm.
not just thinking differently from other people, because that's easy to do, right?
Right. That's natural. Like you already think everybody thinks different than other people, but thinking differently than I think, that's a that's I think that's a good answer. Thinking differently than I thought a minute ago or a day ago or a year ago or 5 years ago.
Yeah, because every problem that you're solving requires a different solution. And if you're stuck and you're not solving it, right, it's you that's stuck, not the problem,
Correct.
right? And you're stuck because you're thinking of it from a specific, vantage point, a specific place.
Right.
And if you change that place that you're thinking of it from, you'll eventually solve the problem.
Interesting. Yeah, you could. Obviously there's a lot more possibilities by changing your vantage point.
Yeah. And that possibilities is exactly what we're looking at, right? The
Right.
more possibility, the better. Now, innovation, people like to turn innovation into some complicated thing. It's not complicated. Innovation is acting differently from yourself,
Okay.
doing something in a different way,
Right.
right? Innovating yourself before you innovate the product or the process or the project that you're working on.
Right.
Create by thinking differently, innovate by acting differently.
So are we just looking to try to if somebody wants to start exercising their brain and become more creative in thinking, should they just start thinking about thinking differently, or is there a step-by-step process that we can go through? Or there's certain tips, tricks that you could give people?
Right. It's you're begging an interesting question because the process that I use is called innovativity. And it is a process that I created. It's a 6-step process. And it begins with creating a safe space for transformation, right? You have to actually be in a position where you can make mistakes. You can get
Right.
wrong answers. You're not under pressure to solve something immediately.
Yeah.
Um, the second step is in what I call integrity, which really is about making sure you're actually solving the right problem in the first place. Because more than 80% of the time in companies, at least, when they're brainstorming, they're solving the wrong problem.
Hmm.
And if you solve the wrong problem, it doesn't matter if you get a good answer, right?
It doesn't matter. Correct. If you're solving the wrong problem, it doesn't matter if you're right.
Exactly. And I can give you, if we have time at some point, I can give you a couple of great examples of how they shifted the problem that they were solving, and it created a solution that solved a problem they couldn't solve. The third step is identity, which is now where you change yourself to solve the problem. So first you change the problem to make sure you're solving the right problem. Then you change yourself, the way we talked about a little earlier, to change yourself to make sure that you are the right person to be solving that problem.
Right.
Or if it's a team or in a company, the team is the right team to solve that problem. Only then do you start brainstorming. Only then do you start generating possibilities and ideas and coming up with solutions. And again, as I've already said, you don't then try to come up with the answers, you come up with solutions. Only then do you take the step, what I call vision, which most people put vision at the beginning of the process. But for me, vision comes when you have a list of possible solutions and you then apply vision to select which solution is going to be the one you want to use, right?
Okay.
And then finally, there's the connection step, which is how do you implement that in the world as innovation? How do you um, actually make the idea real?
Right.
Connecting it to the world, connecting it to other people, connecting it to other projects. And it's actually a three-step process because before the creativity, the thinking, there's the adapting, which is being the self, shifting the self, the being, the way you are about the thing, right? You have to
Right.
do that first. Then you start to think differently because who you are gives you what you think. And once you're thinking, what you think gives you what you do.
So this is in creative problem solving.
It's a form of creative problem solving. It's not exactly creative problem solving. Creative problem solving is basically prepare, ideate, develop, and implement. It's got a lot of similarities, right? So creative problem solving starts with taking time to manipulate the problem, make sure it's the right problem and stuff that I said. Then there's problem solving is like coming up with the ideas. Then there's develop, which means taking the idea you're selecting and actually working on it more, coming up with more ideas about the idea. And then finally the implementation, which I'm terrible at, by the way.
Not everybody's great at everything.
I'm an ideator. I come up with ideas, great ideas, terrible ideas, all kinds of ideas.
Right.
But I'm terrible at implementing ideas, so I usually try to get someone else to do that
Somebody
for
else
me.
to do it. Yeah, that's totally fine. Have you ever read the book The Six Types of Working Genius by Patrick Lencioni?
I have not, but I bet you I know what you're going to tell me.
Okay. Uh, he points out the six types of working genius point out like basically six phases in really doing anything, where ideation is towards the beginning and the execution is at the end. And not everybody has all the different skill sets. Usually you're good at a couple of pieces and you're okay at a couple of pieces and you really don't like and or really terrible at a couple of pieces. So it makes perfect sense that you're a good ideator, but you're not that good, finishing touch person at the end.
I'm glad to know I'm not weird. It's good.
Yeah. Well, that's a whole other story. I can't say that, but weird is good, right? We're all weird. Everybody's that's being unique and creative.
Indeed.
So,
I take it back. I hope that you think I'm weird.
um, so so if somebody wants to just, without a problem to solve, I just want to become a more creative thinker. I just want to open up. I want to just exercise that part of my brain to do creative thinking. Is there a way that, without a specific problem to solve or without a specific task or an idea, are there things that just naturally make us more creative?
Well, again, being those things that we mentioned, like being curious, being bold, being persistent, um, practicing the skills that lead to being more creative, like I mentioned, a number of them. Those are all things you do. But I gotta question the idea that there's anything you can do that's not solving a problem, right? I mean, when you're an artist making a piece of art, you're generally solving a problem of some kind. Whether as a writer myself, the book that you showed at the beginning of this podcast, I was solving a problem. The problem was, how do I portray famous people from history as soccer players? How do I do that?
Right.
That's a problem that I'm solving. If you're making a painting, you're addressing something, you're speaking to something, you're solving some kind of problem. There's always, problem could be the wrong word. It could be challenge. It could be opportunity, but
Yeah.
there's always a goal to creativity. Even if you're a 5-year-old coloring a picture on the table, your goal is to draw that picture. Your goal is to draw a picture of a cat, you know.
Right.
So that's still a problem you're solving. How do I draw a picture of a cat? So it might just be semantics, but I'd be careful to think that there's any way to do it without the problem, because at some level, when you're being creative, you're always solving something.
Right.
It might not seem like you're solving something. It might just seem like you're just playing. But when a 5-year-old or an 8-year-old plays pirate, right?
Right.
They're solving something. They're solving what is it like to be a pirate, right? And the thing is, like, they didn't read a book about how to be a pirate.
Right.
They didn't like go study I don't know, like Long John Silver or whatever pirate book there,
Yeah. Some kind of
Robinson
historical
Crusoe or
documents and stuff. Yeah.
yeah, but they just be a pirate, right? Um, don't even know if they've ever seen an actual pirate movie or anything. But somehow they know that being a pirate means wearing an eye patch and going yar and waving a sword around.
Yeah,
and
being on a ship.
stealing. Yeah, so that's solving a problem.
Interesting. So why should people care about being creative thinking, creative problem solving? Why should anybody care? Like, what's the benefit? Like, maybe to me, maybe to you, it seems self-evident, but why should somebody listening to this podcast be like, well, you know what? What's in it for me? Why should I go through this extra effort of trying to learn something new to be creative thinking or rejuvenate my brain that existed when I was 5 years old that I've lost through schooling, whatever. Creativity doesn't work for me. Like, why should somebody care? What's the benefits?
You know, um, I could pound you with statistics right now. I can give you quotes like LinkedIn said that the most important thing you can do is to improve your creative skills. That they said that in LinkedIn Learning about 5 years ago. IBM said that creativity is the most important skill for leaders in the study they did. And Forbes called creativity the skill of the future. Um, but there's so many other statistics. More creative people solve problems 2.5 times faster than less creative people. Companies that are more creative go bankrupt 3 times less than companies that are less creative. Um, profitability goes up 30 to 40% in more creative companies. Um, the rate of change that we're dealing with all the time that you need to deal with being more creative is radical. I mean, for example, do you know how much of the information that you have in the world today has been created in the last year alone?
I don't know.
Just take a guess. How much information out of the information that exists was not there a year ago?
Out of the information that I know or the information that just exists,
The existing information in the world, how much of it was there a year ago?
um, 50%.
Less than 10%, right?
You're
So
saying
more than
90% of
90% of the information in the world today was created in the last year,
that's that's kind of a shocking statistic. Yeah.
right? So to be able to keep up with the demands, 50%, what is 50% is 50% of what you could use in your job 5 years ago is no longer relevant at all. So 5 years ago, half of what you learned 5 years ago is useless, right? So being creative also means being able to adapt. It means being able to come up with solutions to problems that are changing. You have more problems, you need new solutions, right?
Right.
You know, um, AI demands huge amounts of creativity to be effective. It's a very useful tool. It does amazing things. I'm on a panel, depending on when you broadcast the podcast related to when I'm on the panel, but I'm on a panel around the time of this podcast at the Creativity Conference, in which we're going to be talking about whether AI is creative or not.
Interesting.
And the fact is, AI is not creative if you're not creative, right?
Interesting.
Like it can do some amazing creative work, but it needs you to prompt it correctly. It needs you to manage it correctly. It needs you to ask the right questions. It needs you to have the taste and discernment to be able to understand what of the output is useful. All of these things require some form or facet of creativity, right? The ability to generate new ideas, think about things differently, approach things from a different or adapted perspective. That's creativity.
Right.
Again, thinking differently from yourself.
Tell us about this conference because maybe we'll get this broadcast out before then. Today is the 10th of June. This podcast should be out in a few days. When is that AI conference, creativity conference?
It's a creativity.
Thank you for listening to the International Leadership Podcast. My name is Joe Beauchamp, the host of the International Leadership Podcast and founder of Beauchamp Team Growth Solutions. Most leaders want to scale their businesses. The challenge is that you need to scale your own personal growth and leadership development in order to scale your business. You need to develop your own leadership as well as the leadership of the people underneath you. If you have a good team that's all moving in the same direction, helping to carry the load, you're going to be more successful at scaling your business. That's what Beauchamp Team Growth Solutions does. We train, we coach, we mentor, and we consult on business leadership strategy, leadership growth and development for leaders in the company in order to develop a good company culture, everyone's moving in the right direction, and to strategize your business for scaling. Give us a call at 631-770-7705 for a free initial consultation, or just email me at joe@bochampteam.com. The contact information is right there on the screen, and I will respond to you and we'll be in touch. Thank you so much. Creativity conference.
It's a creativity conference is 1 week from tomorrow, so that's the 18th of June is the creativity conference. It's being held in New York. It's a conference based in Finland, but has been, or sorry, Iceland, not Finland. Take that back. It's a conference based in Iceland, but it's been held in New York in a short version, like a 1 day version, for the past few years as well. So they have like a longer 3 or 4 days in Iceland, and then they have the shorter conference in New York. Um,
And you're on a panel, you're one of the speakers?
I'm on a panel where the AI creativity is the AI creative panel. So I got to get some research in before then.
Right.
So I sound erudite and smart. Um, yeah. And
So
by the
we
way,
are,
just to put out there, if it's going to be out, people
this will
that
be
are
out beforehand, yeah.
sorry.
This is going to be, this podcast will be podcasted or broadcasted, whatever it is, before your event.
That's fantastic. And so if you're in New York, you can come to that on the 18th. If you're watching this after that, I'm sure there's a recording you can also watch. I'm going to be at Barnes and Noble in Long Island after this podcast is broadcast as well. Is it okay if we talk about that for a second?
Absolutely. Well, let's go back to the conference. How does somebody find out about that? Is there a website?
You know what? I don't have it in my head, but it's called the Creativity Conference.
Okay.
And
Held at the
it's
Javits Center, or where is it in?
no, it's being held at the Microsoft Garage, which is in Soho, in Manhattan. And it's the Microsoft Garage is funded by Microsoft and is a place where they do, innovative,
Innovative Creative
interesting
Thinking.
events.
Okay. All
Yeah.
right, good. So we're gonna find that link, and by the time we broadcast the podcast, we're gonna put that into the comments below so people can find out. They can just click on the link and buy their tickets or register or whatever they have to do to show up to the event.
It's free. The event is free. There's very limited tickets. There's over 1,000 people last year that applied for tickets and only 150 got them. But like I said, if you don't manage to get tickets or you watch this after that date, there will be, I'm sure, absolutely sure, a recording. If you go to that same link that you're showing there below, um, I'm absolutely sure there'll be a recording of the event.
Okay, sounds
Because
good.
they're, because they're, because they're simulcasting it as well. So if you're not in New York and you're watching this and you do want to watch it live at the date that it's on, you can watch it simulcast on the internet at the same time. Or
I forgot if I
and
put it on my calendar or not. I think you told me about it, but and you're gonna be signing your book, right?
And I'm going to be signing the book and talking about what's in the book, and hopefully going to have some interesting people show up and see the book. Yeah.
Great.
So
Give
please
us
come.
is
If
it
you're watching this podcast and you're in the area of Long Island, please come.
Manhasset? Give us a date again. Manhasset, June 27th,
That's right, at 1 o'clock.
1 o'clock p.m. at the Barnes and Noble in Manhasset. There's probably only one Barnes and Noble in Manhasset. So Barnes and Noble, Manhasset, 1 o'clock, Saturday, June 27th. Be there.
Or
Get
be
your
square.
sign. Be there, be square. Get your signed copy of World Innovators Cup. Get it signed and learn about some of these great thinkers from around the world throughout history, who should be celebrated just like we're celebrating World Cup soccer. Great creative idea, great synthesis of two fields together, soccer and I guess education, world changers, thinkers. So great use of your creative thinking and putting it into action. Give our listeners a couple of quick tips on things that they could do to strengthen their brain, enhance their brain, think differently, see a different perspective. Like a practical thing is somebody can like listen to the podcast and implement.
All right, well, here's one. We can have fun with this one because it's not just talking. Grab something that you have there on your desk around you besides the pen that you already have in your hand
Okay.
and show us what it is. A mug. with some kind of slogan on it that says, "Who's
This
who
is
among American high school students?" Okay,
Yeah, I've had this mug for 30 a lot of years, 37 years now.
you're out of focus now.
Oh, messed it up with my mug
Sorry
shot.
about that.
My literal mug shot.
Your literal mugshot.
Hello, come on back in. All right, we'll figure that out. It'll adjust.
Kept that on the recording.
All right,
Okay,
back.
so take that mug and tell us. Just make it simple. Five things, just five things that you could do with that mug besides drink from it.
I don't think I've ever drank from this mug. I've held pens in it for almost the entirety of those 37 years.
Okay,
It's
that's
it's not on my
that's one
desk.
thing.
It makes a really good paperweight. You could hold things down with it.
Yeah.
Um, I could I could take pictures with it and post them on social media and say I was amongst the people in high school suckered into paying for a mug and a listing in a who's who directory, thinking that I was actually somebody important enough to deserve a who's who.
Okay,
That
that's
was my
three.
one of my early suckered into thinking things. I could
Now accelerate this, Joseph. Come up with something really weird and not logical at all.
I could grind it into a powder and add it to my food to get additional calcium in case there happens to be calcium carbonate in the.
Okay. Now we're getting interesting.
That's very weird.
Give us one more, even weirder one.
Um, I could make an article of clothing out of this.
Okay.
I could maybe cut it in half and then put it over somewhere in my body where it would be a decorative, very different and unique article of clothing.
Fantastic. So there you have five, you know, different ways you can use that mug, and none of them are the way you never used it in the first place, which is drinking from it. And there are different levels of creativity, right? It's not
Yeah.
that creative to put pens in it because you've been doing that already for a long time.
Yeah.
It's not super creative to use it as a paperweight, right? It's kind of every object could be done as that paperweight.
Yeah. So that's some weight.
But grinding it into a powder and eating it and making it into an article of clothing that you could wear as a decoration, these are more creative things. Now, if I made you make a list of 50 ideas, you'd have to start getting pretty weird, right?
I would imagine. Yeah.
And that's what we do. So that's one exercise people could do just to practice being more creative, is to just take any random object out of their house, anything that you can find, and come up with a list of 50 ways you could use that object.
That's great. I think this make a great activity to do amongst a team of people. Just like pick a random object and then everybody has to, and let's say there's five people in a circle. Everybody has to just say a different use for that thing that nobody else has said before. And
Yeah,
just see how many times we can go around the circle. I'm sure that by the end of it, people will be hysterically laughing and engaging their creative mind and thinking. I think it'd be fun, and I think people would realize, hey, we're a little more creative than we gave ourselves credit for.
absolutely. And the other pretty much every object I've done that exercise with, somebody says throw it at somebody.
That's a
Uh,
that's an emotional hint. That's a whole other direction.
Whole other
It's actually
direction,
very
but
interesting.
that's very common, like the paperweight. Yeah.
I just want to bring up now that since that like I've been thinking about what our conversation was going to be like today, and one of the things I train people on is what I call emotional fitness. And so, and how it relates to creativity is is a function of our prefrontal cortex, right? And so if I'm being emotionally triggered, stressed out, or in some other way emotionally triggered, something happened to me, I'm perseverating on it, all those things that create this fight or flight response, cortisol released in my brain, my limbic system gets activated and it restricts blood flow to my prefrontal cortex, which is going to restrict my ability to do creative thinking or problem solving. So I think even things like just normal mental healthcare type stuff, emotional well-being care, self-care, um, in itself could enhance creative thinking.
It's funny. It's a two-way street there because there's a lot of evidence and statistics and studies on how creativity helps mental health.
Oh yeah.
And how doing creative activities um, really helps with mental health situations, which is why when you go to like a mental health facility, they're always doing like some kind of
Art
art
and stuff. Yeah.
therapy or whatever, right?
Yeah. I think it has to do with, I would say, it's if I'm exercising my prefrontal cortex part of my brain, that part of my brain is going to be stronger, getting more blood flow, and it's going to, react by, one of the executive functions is impulse control, which is the impulses of the limbic brain. So if I can slow down those or regulate those limbic impulses by activating my prefrontal cortex by painting or doing artwork or trying to figure out 50 different uses of my mug, um, I think it does go back and forth, right? So I'm activating the prefrontal cortex, which calms down the limbic brain. If the limbic brain is activated, it restricts creativity. So I think they're definitely related.
Well, it's an interesting thing too is we must be careful to limit it to the prefrontal cortex because creativity really is truly a whole brain activity. Now, I don't know so much about the limbic system being involved, but certainly the amygdala is. There's a lot of emotion in creativity, right? It's not all intelligent or in logic.
Hmm.
There's a huge amount of instinct and emotion, and that's the difference between human creativity and AI, right? Is that human creativity really does rest on a great deal of emotion and instinct
Right.
and just kind of knowing something, right? It's just kind of getting it. Um, and so, for example, there's this thing where people say your left brain is your creative, or your right brain is your creative brain. Left-handed people are more creative, so like the right brain is a creative brain, the left brain is this. That's utter nonsense. It's absolutely not
Okay.
true.
Good.
Um,
We've debunked a myth right here.
yeah, so when you see like those pictures where like the left side of the brain is logical and the right side has got all this color and stuff coming off it, it's completely untrue. What's actually the corpus callosum in the middle of your brain that holds the two sides of the brain together, the stronger that your corpus callosum is, the thicker your corpus callosum is, the more creative you become because it's the switching between the two sides. It's the communication between different parts of your brain that actually make you more creative.
Now, from what I understand, there's a big difference with that between men and women, right? The corpus callosum dissolves with testosterone, as far as I understand, not entirely, but it's not the same in men and women. So does that
Women
mean
generally have a thicker one, yeah, because
yeah?
I think that's why they're better at multitasking and stuff like that, is because of that.
So would that make women more creative?
Well, I don't want to say that. And certainly, like historically, if you look at artists and so on, men have dominated, right? But there's a lot of sociological reasons for that. What I do know is that when I'm teaching in corporate environments, women seem to do better with what I'm teaching than men do. Not every man and every woman, but overall, I'd say 70% of my clients are women,
Interesting.
and 70% of my clients are um, that are more interested in what I'm talking about and kind of more engaged with it are women. I think women kind of are more creative than men. Um, if you think about it, it makes sense because women are literally creative, right?
Yeah,
Um,
that is true.
men are creative for a few seconds. Women are creative for 9 months. And there's something to that spiritually. There's something to the idea that women are the creators of life in a way that we're not. We're
Right.
just not. And so I think there's a connection to creativity that's different for women for sure.
Yeah. Interesting. Very interesting. A lot of very interesting stuff. Um, let's talk a little bit about AI and what do you think AI is doing to creativity in the population as a whole? I mean, don't steal from your talk from a couple weeks from now, but do you think people are becoming less creative because they're more relying on AI, or is it opening up new opportunities for more creativity, or both?
It definitely opens up opportunities for more creativity. There's no doubt about that. I mean, first of all, I can do things that I could never do before, right? I can make pictures and stuff that I couldn't have ever done. I have no skill as drawing. I can't draw. I can't paint. I can't do that at all, right? But
Right.
I can go into AI program and create an amazing graphic. an amazing photograph. That book there that you're holding in your hand a few times, that's full of images. If you open it up and show again inside a couple of images, it's
Yep.
full of images of AI created, right? That
Let's
I
get a
could have never afforded to pay an to create those images, 56 innovators, there's 112 images of innovators playing soccer in there. I couldn't have afforded to do that. There's Frida Kahlo, right? So I couldn't have afforded to do that. Now I have access to the ability to
Ben,
be
Ben Franklin is
creative.
gonna know him, getting his electrocuted soccer
Ben,
ball.
yep, Ben Franklin with some electricity in soccer. So that's one thing right there. Another is that, as a writer, I've learned already how to use um, AI to make myself much more creative, right? It allows me to do research at levels that I could never have done even a couple of years ago. Like
Hmm.
makes Google look silly, right?
Oh yeah.
Um, I mean, that book that you're talking about, I could take, a question, say, I need a list of innovators from Africa that I haven't thought of yet. And it'll give me a list of hundreds of them, right?
Yeah.
And then if I say, okay, that's great, you have hundreds, but I want one from each country. So I want a team of, 13 players or 14 players, including a couple of coaches, and I want one from each country. Can you help me select those? It'll help me select those. I can say, like, I'm going to make a signature move for this player. Can you suggest some ideas? And it'll suggest, it's like having a really smart assistant who's smarter than me to come and help me come up with better ideas that I can then choose which ideas I want to work with, how I want to work with them, how I want to write about them. But it's, on a research level, fantastic. On the other end of things, again, on a level of editing text or editing photos, it's become incredibly skilled. I can give it my manuscript and it will tell me, at the levels that the best editors in the world can't reach.
Right.
It'll tell me what I should do to improve it, how
Right.
I should do, where it needs work, where it's good, where it's weak, where I'm saying too much. It's incredible, right?
Right.
It allows
And
me to become a
it
much
actually
more
reads your whole
skilled creative
document, unlike
individual.
some editors.
Yeah, and it works for everything, right? It's not just writing and not just pictures. It
Right.
works for business. It works for anything. So if you become lazy and you try to make it do the work, that's where it can damage creativity.
Right.
If you're trying to let AI do the actual work and you're not treating it like an assistant, like someone you're hiring, right, to
Right.
help you, then you're in trouble.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, about at the end of our podcast for today, any final thoughts that like how do people reach out to you? Do you have a website, an email? Should we find you on social media? How can people reach out to you if they want to know more about you, aside from showing up to Barnes and Noble on June 27th at one
Which is
o'clock?
really what they should do. And if they have to fly across the country for it, they should do that as well. But so yeah, so please jump on a plane, get to Barnes and Noble. But if for any reason you want to get in touch with me besides that, the two best ways to do it is to go to my website, which I think you can see below. It's www dot my name, Michael Brian Lee LEE, michaelbrianlee.com. That's my website. You can also get me on LinkedIn at Michael Lee Creativity on LinkedIn. Um, Look for Michael Brian Lee, not Michael Lee, because there's like 1,000 Michael Lees, including a senator from Utah and a lot of doctors and a whole lot of
They're
people
not
with
you.
my name. But Michael Brian Lee is unique. You'll not find anybody else with that name. So look up that on LinkedIn or on my website. You'll find me.
All right.
I would love to
Sounds
hear from
great.
people as well. I'd love to hear what you thought of the podcast and what you think of the website and what you think of the book and get a copy of the book.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Hopefully. So we have about 190,000 subscribers to the American Business Podcast right now. Our podcasts are getting about 2,000 to 4,000 views. And they are across the country and around the world. About 50 other countries in the world watch, or at least subscribe to the podcast. So hopefully this gives you some worldwide exposure, and maybe you'll get some people flying in and or subscribing for your book. You'll be shipping them out to other countries. Maybe people will love the fact that their favorite innovator from their country was highlighted in this book, and they'll order your book, and it'll make a difference.
Who's
So
your favorite? Who's your favorite from the book, by the way, that you did see?
I like the science, all the science guys. So Ben Franklin, I'm shocked that you have Ernest. I'm not super shocked, but I don't know too many people that know Ernest Rutherford, right? So, but he's one of my favorites as far as, um, figuring out like just even his experiments that he did with, nuclear chemistry. They were crazy, but he did them and he figured stuff out, right? Which is, it's amazing. So I would say, I'm going to say Ernest Rutherford at this point.
Okay, fantastic. Because you're probably the only person I've met who said Ernest Rutherford, so that's fantastic.
Yeah. Welcome to America's virtual Chamber of Commerce and Industry. My name is Joe Beauchamp. I'm one of the founding members here. I'm also the chair of the leadership committee. I'm here to help leaders develop strategies. My company is Beauchamp Team Growth Solutions. We help business owners and business leaders to develop their leadership skills, the leadership skills of their team. We know that better leaders get better results, and we provide that leadership strategy, training, and education for business leaders to run their companies better. Hope you can join us at the America's Virtual Chamber of Commerce. I look forward to seeing you soon. Somebody that I liked as a scientist who is not a well-known, he's not an Einstein or even a Tesla or everybody knows Ben Franklin, everybody knows Tesla. They may not have known Tesla before Tesla, but they do now. So, and actually there's the Tesla Museum coming out on Long Island. I don't know if you knew that.
I did not know that. That's fantastic.
There's a Tesla museum. It caught on fire a couple of years ago, so hopefully they're going to rebuild that. And
why does that seem appropriate?
Yeah, it does seem appropriate.
But by the way, congratulations on those numbers with the podcast. That's really impressive and really amazing. That's really
Thank you. Yeah, that's all Kevin. Kevin did that, so appreciate that. So, all right. Well, we're going to sign off for today. So, to our listening audience, thank you so much for joining us once again today. My name is Joe Beauchamp. I am your host for the International Leadership Podcast right here on the American Business Podcast channel. I'm also the founder of Beauchamp Team Growth Solutions, and you'll hear a little bit more about us in the commercial that plays up next. So hopefully we hear from you. Feel free to comment below, like, share, subscribe. Reach out to us. Reach out to Michael Brian Lee. He's open to hearing your comments and or emails. Find his website. I'm happy to reach out. I'm happy for everybody to reach out to me as well. Looking forward to seeing you next week. And so thank you so much, and we'll see you soon. Well, that was a lot of fun. Thank you so much for watching our podcast of the International Leadership Podcast. Once again, my name is Joe Beauchamp, president and founder of Beauchamp Team Growth Solutions. That's beauchampteam.com. If you like this episode, please like it, share it, subscribe to this channel. If you're interested in being a guest or a sponsor of this program, please give me an email at info@beauchampteam.com. I'm more than happy to talk to you about it and discuss options and how it can work something out for everyone to win. Thank you so much. Looking forward to seeing you soon. Bye.